Picture this: the heavy scent of candle wax mingling with the metallic tang of ink and dried flowers in a dim royal chamber. You wake to the faint whisper of silk brushing against cold stone floors and the soft clink of goblets carried by unseen hands. Shadows twist along the walls, cast by flickering candlelight, dancing like spectators to an unspoken drama. At the center, the queen kneels before a small carved table. Her face is a mask, resolve hard as iron, terror buried beneath layers of composure. In her hands, she holds a goblet of wine, the liquid dark and glistening, each ripple reflecting her conflicted gaze. This wasn't a petty act, a fleeting whim. It was a calculated descent into betrayal, a sacrifice demanded by ambition, fear, and the ruthless calculus of survival. Every heartbeat is amplified in the stillness. You sense the pulse of the palace itself, the stones, the tapestries, the whispering shadows, as if they too hold their breath. Power and maternal instinct collide in a single act that will alter the course of a dynasty. The daughter sleeps unaware, her innocence fragile, her life hanging by the thread of a mother's ambition. What would you do if the person who vowed to protect you decided your existence threatened her very survival? Could love exist where fear dictates action? In this moment, loyalty is currency, innocence is expendable, and the walls of the palace are silent witnesses to the unthinkable. This wasn't devotion, it was terror. This wasn't maternal care, it was political strategy. This wasn't a family, it was a battlefield where love, fear, and power intertwined in deadly symmetry. The queen's life was a constant balancing act, a delicate tightrope stretched between devotion to her child and devotion to the throne. Every breath she took, every word she whispered, was measured against the unforgiving scales of power. Politics was a living beast in the palace, rumors fanged and venomous, nobles circling like predators, waiting for a misstep. One wrong glance, one hesitant pause could mean disgrace, or death. Succession was never secure. Each birthday of her daughter reminded the queen of fragile legacies, of alliances built on shifting sands, of threats both whispered and tangible. Fear was her shadow. The possibility of rebellion, assassination, or betrayal shaped every choice she made. She watched her daughter with the tension of a commander surveying the front lines, seeing in innocent gestures the potential sparks of defiance that could ignite chaos. Morality here was subordinate to survival. Love was not simple affection, it was a strategic tool, a calculated risk. Every smile, every act of rebellion, even the tiniest shift in posture, was a threat magnified by the lens of political necessity. The queen internalized the palace's unspoken rule. A ruler must prioritize the crown above all else, even the heart that bore her child. This wasn't neglect, it was fear. This wasn't cruelty, it was calculated preservation. This wasn't family, it was a kingdom's inheritance measured in whispers, treachery, and shadows. By understanding her desperation, we glimpse how dynastic insecurity, cultural obsession with authority, and the constant pressure of survival could twist the most intimate bonds into instruments of ambition. Behind gilded doors and velvet curtains, whispers moved like shadows, carrying rumors that could shatter lives. The palace breathed intrigue. Corridors echoed with silent steps. Servants moved like ghosts delivering messages that no eye should see. And advisors played perilous games of loyalty and deception. Every gesture, every glance, was loaded with unspoken consequences. The queen navigated this labyrinth of suspicion with practiced poise, knowing that weakness was fatal. Each council meeting, each banquet, each ritual became a chessboard where lives were pieces to be sacrificed or protected. Even her daughter, oblivious to the machinations around her, lived under a canopy of hidden threats. Innocence existed only in contrast to the palace's calculated cruelty. Fear was constant, obedience demanded, and trust a rare currency. She learned to read the subtlest signs, a cough in the hallway signaling a spy, the hesitation in a noble's bow hinting at treachery, the flicker of understanding in a child's eyes that might betray knowledge too dangerous to possess. The walls themselves seemed conspiratorial, absorbing secrets, echoing schemes, conspiring with shadows to ensure that nothing remained hidden for long. Every whisper, Every clandestine note, every ritualized greeting carried weight. To survive, she became both actor and observer, protector and executioner of fragile alliances. In this world, love could become suspicion, and familial affection could be weaponized against the very lives it sought to safeguard. This wasn't indulgence, it was vigilance. This wasn't luxury, it was a cage. This wasn't motherhood, it was strategy layered with fear. By immersing in the suffocating tension of court life, we see how secrecy, paranoia, and ambition could twist devotion into lethal calculation, and how power demanded sacrifices that no conscience could fully reconcile. The chamber is silent, heavy with the scent of beeswax, polished wood, and faint traces of lavender. A single candle flickers, casting long shadows across the Queen's face, revealing lines of tension, resolve, and dread. In her hand rests a small cup, its contents shimmering faintly, exotic, nearly undetectable. This is no impulsive act. This is calculation. Each movement is deliberate. Her fingers steady as she lifts the vessel, her eyes locked on her daughter's unsuspecting face, her heartbeat echoing in the quiet room. The poison is both weapon and shield, a barrier against those who would seize the throne by exploiting her child. Survival demands it. Authority demands it. Loyalty, even maternal, is secondary. It isn't rage that drives her. It isn't vengeance. It is the cold arithmetic of power. She imagines the whispers in corridors, the scheming nobles, the foreign envoys waiting for an opening. Every sip she contemplates is a line drawn against chaos, a calculated severing of the threat that her daughter's existence could represent in a world where succession is life or death. Yet in these moments, conscience flickers. Memories of lullabies, of small hands clutched in hers, of the laughter echoing down these same corridors, haunt her. Each hesitation weighs against the perceived necessity of survival. Every heartbeat a reminder that power exacts a toll that cannot be measured in gold or titles. This isn't impulsion, it is strategy. This isn't hatred, it is fear crystallized into action. This isn't family, it is a throne defended with a child's life as currency. In this act, poison becomes a language of power, silent, intimate, inescapable. It enforces authority, cloaked in secrecy, embodying the harsh reality that in some courts, life is only valued insofar as it serves control. The Queen's choice, as horrifying as it is deliberate, illustrates the mechanics of betrayal. It shows how emotional bonds can be weaponized, how ambition can override empathy, and how the cold rationality of survival can transform a mother into a murderer. The palace holds its breath, awaiting the inevitable, as the line between protection and atrocity vanishes into shadow. Silence breaks. The daughter's death reverberates through the palace like a bell tolling doom. Courtiers whisper in terrified corners, eyes darting toward the Queen, measuring her reaction, questioning her motives. Suspicion coils like smoke in every hallway, twisting truth into rumor, rumor into fear. Grief and horror spread unevenly. Some sense the Queen's hand in the tragedy, unspoken yet undeniable. Others misinterpret signs, projecting conspiracies onto every gesture, every nod, every fleeting glance. The court, once a place of splendor and ceremony, becomes a theater of dread. Ceremony becomes a theater of dread. In this world, childhood dies quietly, without witnesses beyond the shadows. Trust, once assumed between parent and child, is shattered irreparably. The Queen's ambition has blurred the line between love and necessity, leaving only a chilling calculus where loyalty and survival outweigh compassion. Every smile remembered, every embrace stolen, becomes a ghostly reminder of innocence lost. The ripple effects extend beyond the royal chambers. Advisors reassess alliances, fearing both the Queen's wrath and the instability that her choice might invite. Guards, servants, and courtiers internalize terror, adjusting their behavior to a court now defined by suspicion and dread. Power has demanded its ultimate sacrifice, human connection. This wasn't mere tragedy, it was engineered. This wasn't misfortune, it was inevitability. This wasn't a family, it was a kingdom reshaped by ambition. The human cost of political necessity reveals itself in small, piercing ways. A servant's tear, a noble's stiffened posture, the whispered fear in empty corridors. By examining this collapse, viewers witness the paradox of maternal love entangled with tyranny. Ambition overrides empathy. Fear overrides morality. Innocence is collateral damage in the ceaseless pursuit of power. The legacy is not wealth, not titles, not glory. It is pain, suspicion, and the echo of a life ended before it fully began. The audience is left to grapple with the human cost of ambition, a world in which even familial bonds become instruments of survival, where love and loyalty are measured in political currency, and where the shadow of a mother's decision can haunt generations yet unborn. The halls of the palace are quiet, yet every corner seems to hum with unspoken tension. Candles flicker in their sconces, casting trembling shadows on stone walls polished to a cold sheen. The queen moves through these corridors like a spectre, her crown secure but her conscience heavy. She has survived, the immediate threat eliminated, yet the victory tastes of ash. Whispers curl through the palace like smoke, subtle and relentless. Courtiers speculate in hushed tones, measuring her responses, testing her vigilance. Allies shift allegiances overnight, smiling while calculating, nodding while observing. Every glance, every pause, every gesture carries new weight. Fear has fortified her authority, yet it has also transformed the palace into a labyrinth of suspicion and isolation. This is power's paradox. It demands dominance, yet isolates the one who wields it. The queen's triumph is fragile. Political maneuvers must now be calibrated with precision, each move scrutinized for hidden traps. She cannot forget the cup, the hesitation, the life extinguished by her own hands. Memories of her daughter haunt the throne chambers, echoing in the soft rustle of silk and the quiet murmur of servants. Every step forward is shadowed by the knowledge that power has a price measured not in gold or titles, but in conscience and human life. Even as her authority solidifies, the psychological toll is profound. Fear has become both armor and burden. She commands obedience effortlessly, yet the weight of moral compromise presses down like stone on her chest. Allies obey, but at what cost? The court functions, but trust has fractured, leaving relationships brittle, alliances tenuous, and loyalty conditional. In the vacuum left by innocence, suspicion thrives. The queen is secure in name, yet vulnerable in spirit. The human cost is invisible, yet undeniable. Servants move silently, eyes lowered, hearts racing. Nobles calculate every interaction, measuring whether their next word might trigger reprisal. The palace has become a theatre where obedience is rehearsed, terror performed, and memory of the fallen child lingers as an unspoken lesson. Survival demands vigilance. Survival demands cruelty. Even in triumph, the soul bears witness to acts it cannot forget. This wasn't victory. It was endurance. This wasn't mastery. It was isolation. This wasn't peace. It was the echo of betrayal. The queen stands atop a throne built on fear, aware that each day forward will be haunted by shadows of her own making. History will record her success, yet it will never capture the private toll, the moral erosion, the sleepless nights, the constant calculation, the silent grief that accompanies power, bought with blood. And so the palace breathes uneasily, a monument to ambition and terror. The audience is left to reflect. How often does authority rely on fear? How often do systems then and now reward compromise while erasing conscience? The echoes of the Queen's choice resonate across time, a reminder that power, once secured through cruelty, casts shadows far longer than a single reign. History remembers the Queen for her cunning, her decisiveness, her ruthlessness. She is immortalized in chronicles as a master of courtcraft, a survivor of intrigue, a protector of the throne. Yet these records are silent on the human cost. The child whose life was extinguished in the name of ambition, the courtiers who trembled in fear, the palace that became a crucible of paranoia. What does it mean when authority demands the destruction of those closest to us? Power, once entwined with obsession, warps morality. Maternal instinct bends beneath political necessity. Love is weighed against survival. Loyalty becomes a liability. Every calculated move, every whispered threat, every hidden vial of poison reveals the paradox of obsession. devotion twisted into tyranny, care transformed into control. The Queen's choices were deliberate, cold, and terrifying, yet they were also shaped by a culture that conflated fear with respect, obedience with loyalty, and cruelty with wisdom. We see echoes of this everywhere. In families where ambition trumps empathy, in corporations where success justifies ruthless behavior, in governments where the pursuit of power eclipses humanity. Obsession, when sanctioned by authority, creates systems where moral compromise is rewarded and conscience punished, and so reflection becomes imperative. The Queen's story forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. When does protection become persecution? When does vigilance become obsession? When does devotion become destruction? In contemplating these patterns, we confront both the individual and systemic consequences of unbridled authority. The past is not merely a chronicle, it is a mirror. By examining the shadows cast by ambition and fear, we recognize the enduring human struggle to balance power, morality, and empathy. This wasn't merely history, it was a cautionary tale, and its lessons remain painfully relevant today.